Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Ignore all of the Barbies in the background. If you don't know what that's all about, you go and watch my last video. They're still all there. I'm still coming up with plans, including probably a new channel as well, a second channel, which is super exciting. But today on this channel I wanted to talk about my top 10 tips for beginning tarot. I'm a few years into my tarot journey now, and I was looking back over my lovely time developing my tarot practice, and I wanted to do a top 10. So part of the top 10 will be deck recommendations, also some tips and tricks as well. So if you're just interested in my tarot journey, or you're new to tarot and you want a top 10 list that I think might support you, then this is the video for you. So in no particular order, on my top 10 list for tarot beginners, I would recommend that you get some of the classic decks. What do I mean by classic decks? I mean your Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Get the actual Rider-Waite and Thoth as well, and a Marseille deck. These are the three decks that I got. Now I didn't get these three decks straight away at the start of my journey with tarot. I was one of the many people that I've heard say, oh, the imagery just doesn't do much for me. So I didn't jump straight into buying a classic deck, and I regret that now. I think I would have found my path much easier if I'd have jumped straight in with one of these decks. I bought my Rider-Waite, this one, from my local metaphysical shop, probably about 6 months in, I would say, to my journey, simply because these were the images that were coming up in all the books I was reading. And it wasn't until this year that I actually decided to start using this deck for personal reading instead of just using it as a study deck. And it was then that I realised it would have been so beneficial to have used this deck for readings from the get-go, regardless of whether I thought the imagery spoke or not. There is something about this imagery that will surprise you when you start reading it. So it's a must, I think. It's a must if you've got any interest in tarot history, and I think that's part of it if you're really developing a passion for tarot. The Thoth I got out of curiosity. Again, I think as part of tarot history, this is really lovely to have. And I know there are some issues around the character of Aleister Crowley, which some people can't remove from the deck. But I think with that aside, it's really useful to have in your collection a copy of the Thoth. This was my little Marseille deck. This is my least visited system of the three key systems of the tarot. I am being more called to this. In fact, I pulled this card today, the first time I've ever pulled a Marseille card in a reading. I am being pulled to this, but even so, it's nice to have a Marseille in your collection from the get-go, just so when it's spoken about, you kind of know, you at least know the visuals of the deck that's being spoken about. So getting into the three different systems, it's not about learning them all at once, because that would be a lot, but just about knowing them, being able to reference some visuals, and whatever system you decide to learn, actually going back to that original key deck. It's really important. So first thing on this top 10 list is get some of these classic decks. Number 2 on my list is, as you learn the tarot meanings, try and make some connections to your everyday life. So for example, the King of Swords, for me, when I found out what the King of Swords meant and the energy of the King of Swords, it became my divorce card, because to survive many times within divorce court, I had to abandon my emotional self, which is very high in my makeup, and become very analytical, very fact focused. And I linked the two together. That really helps you to retain tarot knowledge and the memory of what all the cards mean. And I have a deck recommendation for doing that sort of thing with. For me, Poppy Palin's Everyday Enchantment Tarot is really good for that as well. Not only is it a beautiful deck, I mean, look at those backs, but the images are very linked to everyday, like the deck title says. So look at this Emperor. I mean, we all have been in positions where we've had people like this in charge in front of us, making the decisions that will affect us. The empire builders. We know who this guy is. It helps you to understand the meaning of the card. I mean, the Knight of Blades. Who hasn't been in this situation? Somebody is racing ahead with their own ideas and their own decisions and kind of leaving a fallout behind them. Brilliant depiction of the Knight of Blades. The everyday imagery of these cards really helps you to link the meaning with things that you can hold on to and reference in your own life. I also like the fact that this deck is colour coded if you don't decide to take the borders off. So your majors are black and then the different suits are colour coded to help you remember as well. It's just a really good deck for making that link between tarot card meanings and your real everyday life. So Poppy Palin's The Everyday Enchantment Tarot is number 2 on my list. Number 3 is another deck recommendation, and for me it's Chris-Anne's The Lightseers Tarot. Now, of course, this very much reflects the fact that I am more heavily based in Rider-Waite-Smith practice and decks and that system. If your practice is more Marseille, then of course this isn't going to be relevant, or more Thoth based, it's not going to be relevant. But these are just my top 10s. And the Lightseers is just one of those decks, I think, where the artwork again really helps to spoon feed the tarot meanings, and it's also got the gorgeous devil. But using a deck like this where the imagery has got so many pointers to the meaning of the card, it's not so much a test of memory when you're learning as other decks can be. It also doesn't go its own way, it sticks more to the system, the Rider-Waite system, but it does it in a beautiful modern way. And I just think decks like this, the Lightseers in particular, is just a really lovely one to come to when learning, when there's so much in your head to remember that you need triggers for your memory. I mean, look at this for the 10 of Wands, that idea of a burden of needing help to carry so much, and you've got this beautiful imagery here. The Ace of Wands, that spark of creativity, that passion focus suit, it's all here in the imagery to help you remember. So the Lightseers, for me personally, that has to be on my top 10 list. Number 4 on my list is Buy a Good Book to Help You. And this is the book I use, and I would highly recommend it. It's by Liz Dean, and it's The Ultimate Guide to Tarot. It has some great introductions at the beginning, but then each card is really broken down for you with its meanings, its reversed meanings, the symbols within the card, how to work with that card and do spreads around it to get that meaning really into your head. The minors are also have a double page, whereas the majors often have 4 pages of information. I used this book every day for like 2 years, and it really was fundamental in me learning tarot, and I loved it. I really loved it. So buy a good book, and I recommend this one. Number 5 on my list is another deck recommendation. This is another one that I think, if you're doing Rider-Waite-Smith system, is just a really good deck to use if you're a beginner. That's the Green Witch Tarot by Anne Moira. The guidebook for it is absolutely wonderful. It's got places that you can make notes for your cards in there as well, which is really useful to personalize some of your learning. Really good. But the imagery again in this deck also really holds clearly the meaning of the card. It is taking away that sort of memory test aspect to use a deck like this. I just think it's just really clear in the imagery what the meaning of the card is. Even if you'd never learned anything about tarot, you could look up this deck and kind of make really good guesses about what the meaning of the card is. It's just really, really clear imagery, and it's beautiful as well. It's beautiful to use. It's just such a lovely deck with a really clear guidebook. So for me, the Green Witch Tarot, it just needed to be on my top 10 recommendations list. Number 6 on my list is to start a tarot journal. Just start playing with the cards and just writing down daily. Doesn't need to be much. Some information about what you're learning, or what your spreads have meant, or the cards that you've pulled. This is a great book. This is by Andy Matzner. This is Journaling the Tarot. This I found really useful for helping to retain the meanings of the cards by the questions that it asks. And basically what this book is, it just gives you a list of questions for each card that you could journal about. So say you pulled the 5 of Cups, you could journal on what is awaiting your attention, what still needs to be resolved, what or whom are you ignoring that could help, what role has grief and mourning played in your life, how can you connect on a more regular basis with what makes you feel alive. So they're kind of psychological questions around the meaning of the card. It is a great little book for coming at learning tarot meanings from a different angle, and of course it's really good to delve deeper into your psyche or your shadows as well. So I found this book really useful. And for tarot journaling, it doesn't need to be expensive. This was my first year of tarot, and this was made out of old book cover and Amazon envelopes as well, and just loads of scrap. I just had loads and loads of fun just journaling and recording my practice. So you can see I was photographing cards. I was just writing on scrap envelopes about the readings. The inserts of all these different cards as well. I just had real fun just recording my year with tarot. It was really fun. This was year 2. This was another handmade book as well. I used these journals as ways to record across a month what cards I was pulling from any focus deck. I was just having real fun. It was a really nice way to kind of record and consolidate what I was learning. So I think journaling is a big part of it. I want to write things down. I'm recycling like old diaries that were never used to just draw imagery around some of the meanings of the tarot. So literally you don't even need to use words. You can just record with imagery as well, more like a sketchbook, if that's the way that you feel like you can get the meaning down. So you don't even need to record in words. You can record in any way that you see fit. I haven't made one of those big art journals this year. I needed a break from it, and I've just got an old notebook which is over here on my desk over here, and I'm just writing just simple words a paragraph a day around things that I am learning or around my reading. So the world of possibilities is out there for you. It doesn't need to take loads of time, it doesn't need to take loads of money. There are different ways of journaling, all are valid, whatever works for you. But I think journaling is really important to do on this top 10 list. Number 7 on my list is to feel free to ignore all advice and to listen to your own soul, including the advice on this video, because every person's tarot journey is different. It's uniquely yours, and I think being told that that's okay is it's freeing if you are really being pulled in a different direction. For me, the case in point is the first deck that I ever got called to buy, which was for me the Wild Unknown Tarot. Now, this I saw at a friend's house and it just completely spoke to me. There are things in this artwork that are very similar to my own artwork. I use colour, I use line, I use directions of lines, I use repeating symbols, lines in particular, to symbolise different meanings. So I saw this artwork and it spoke to me of nearly 50 years of art practice where I used similar imagery. So for me, this was an important key in for my tarot practice. And I think on this list, I'd like to say that if you too are finding that there is a deck calling to you that just speaks to your soul, to go with it, to go with the deck that speaks to you the most, that delights your soul the most, that you look at and you understand it, you can get what the symbolism and the imagery is meaning. It might be a deck that you've heard on repeat people say this isn't good for beginners because it's not clear in the imagery or it's too abstract for beginners. But if it speaks to you, I think walking with tarot is all about listening to those inner whispers, those inner calls, and waking up your hearing to hear it and to not ignore those inner callings. So it might be that you end up with a deck that isn't necessarily as clear as, say, the Light Seers, but it's the deck that calls to you. I would say go with that. And on a similar tangent, I would also say don't discount your other experiences as well, because they come into play. I already said that my 50 years of art practice from a tiny little girl has keyed into me understanding this deck. That art experience has also been fundamental in me stepping into tarot and it immediately feeling like home. I was late to tarot. I'm 54 this year. So I was over 50 when I came to tarot, and yet it never felt new. It felt like home. It's because I'd got other experiences and life experiences that were brought into the mix of tarot learning. And for you that will be the same whether you're 54, 64, 84 or 24. You will have your own individual experiences that are also important and vital and will meld with your tarot learning. So don't discount your life experience when you walk into a tarot practice. Your life experience and your uniqueness is really important in the mix, and that celebration of uniqueness brings me to another deck choice. It's another Chris-Anne deck, the Curious Creatures. This is one that so many people dislike because of the animal and human mix, and yet it makes my soul sing. The colours, the fun of it, how brilliant the guidebook is, how clear it makes the meanings. This is a brilliant deck for helping you learn the tarot. I would say yes, this is definitely a beginner's deck, but it's also a deck that celebrates what I find joy giving in life over what other people might just really dislike, and nobody's wrong, everybody's right. If you dislike this deck and wouldn't go near it with a 10-foot barge pole, you're correct. If you love this deck and you think this is just one for you and it's a soul deck and it makes you smile and it makes you joyous, then you're right too. There is no right or wrong in this. It's all about how unique you are. So embrace your uniqueness, embrace your life experience, go with what you love. This is a brilliant deck. It would be on my top 10 list, but it might not be on yours, and everybody's right. Tip number 9 again links on from life experience. It's to let your other passions mix in to help you find decks that are going to make learning tarot easier. So I this month have been using the Hobbit Tarot. My daughter also has this deck because we love the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit stories. We know those stories and the characters absolutely inside out, and therefore it makes understanding these cards really easy. And putting this imagery into my head, it's another shelf of knowledge that, oh, the 4 of Wands is this bit of the Hobbit, or the 10 of Wands is this part of the story. The Queen of Coins is all the women of Lake Town supporting their men and their families. The Star is finding the healing doorway to the mountain. It's all there just to add another layer and another hook to hook your understanding onto. You've already got one passion, that passion can become a hook. So use your other passions to help you hook your tarot knowledge. We love Harry Potter in this house. Kids have all grown up on the stories and read the stories and the films. Although this isn't actually a Harry Potter deck, the Witchling Academy Tarot is very similar in energy to Hogwarts and the world of Harry Potter. And because of that, this has been a wonderful deck to play with and to look at and understand the archetypes more. I think if you can link the archetypes to other characters that you know, or other moments and passions that you know, then that really helps to consolidate knowledge. And really for tarot, there's a lot to remember, and any hook to consolidate that knowledge, just jump on it and run with it, and you'll have fun doing that. And then number 10, I've just said the words, have fun. Have fun. Don't panic too much about needing to know it all at once. That never happens for anybody. It's just a constant drip feed, but within that drip, have it be sparkles and rainbows dripping on you, not pressure and worry and damp water telling you you're rubbish because you can't remember things. You can stand in a drip of sparkles. It's way more fun. So have fun. Start using the cards, and if they make you think of fish swimming in poison, draw a page of fish swimming in poison. That card then will always be in your mind for something. If another card makes you think of a mermaid prince coming in to save the fish, then draw it. Have fun. If you love collecting trinkets and toys and little plastic knickknacks and things out of surprise eggs, or you've got a fascination with dice, throw those on top of your tarot readings. Have fun with your tarot practice. It's your practice. I've recently just got all of these Barbies out of the loft. That's what my last video was all about. I am currently thinking, what deck is this Barbie? If she was a deck, what deck would she be? I'm getting my decks out for each of the dolls. I'm going to start having conversations with my dolls with the decks. It's passions combining, but it's fun to have. Learning tarot, it's a lifetime's mission. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about finding ways to have fun. It might be that one day you do a reading and then you walk out and you see a stone with 3 lines on it. You might have had a reading with lots of 3s in it. Collect the stone, write the message on the stone, keep it somewhere safe. There are loads of ways to have fun with tarot. I think if you're having fun with something, then you'll keep doing it. You won't give up. So those are my top 10 tips. You had some deck recommendations in there, a couple of book recommendations, you had some tips that I found useful. But again, if none of that applies to you, don't forget the tip on the list to discount things and listen to your own whispers of your own soul, because at the end of the day, that's what learning tarot is all about. It's being able to hear those whispers. So you are suffering in this walk. It's your opinion that matters the most. That was my experience. I hope some of it was useful. If not, just discount the whole lot. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.